40,000 miles. All right, everybody, welcome back. I'm Matt Shoemaker, and this is Tech Forum. I am really excited for today's video. So, today, 40,000 miles and 1 year of Model 3 ownership. So, yeah, it's been quite a ride. The car is almost exactly a year old. It turned a year old a couple days ago, and I just turned over 40,000 miles. So, let's discuss it. How has the car been? What are some of the numbers? And, would I do it again? Well, just as a warning right off the bat, I got to tell you guys, this is going to sound like very much a Tesla fanboy video because I have very little negative to say about this car. It has been by far the finest car I've ever owned. It has been the most comfortable car I've yet owned. It's the fastest car I've ever owned. It's the most efficient car I've ever owned. It is also the most expensive car that I've ever owned. So, what is it about the car? I guess after a year, what stands out to me as, I don't know, I guess what is something that jumps out that is either something that was unexpected, or I guess you'd say just the standout item of the car. And I would say that the solid feel. This car, I guess the closest thing that I could describe it to is it's very much like a BMW or a Mercedes or even a Cadillac in how solid and firmly planted it is. A lot of that, I know, is the battery pack that's mounted under the floor, and some of it is just the way they have the car laid out. The suspension is very well sorted on this car. The drive unit and the technology integration and all that is top-notch. But the car is very quiet, very, very smooth. I mean, everything about this thing is just so smooth, very comfortable. And I don't necessarily mean the suspension and the seats and all that. They're comfortable, but the smoothness of throttle response, the quietness, the lack of engine vibration, all of this adds an air of comfort to this car that really makes it stand out among any of the other cars that I've ever owned or driven. So, some of the numbers. One of the biggest things that people ask me about in owning a Model 3 for this duration, or just owning an EV, is battery degradation. So, this car is rated at 325 miles on a charge, and I've only charged it fully a couple of times, but I got 315 miles at a full charge the one time, and 317 miles another time. So I'm looking at 2.5% or 3%, something like that, of battery loss, capacity loss over 40,000 miles. But bear in mind, this thing had almost 1% battery capacity, I don't want to say loss, but when I bought the car, it was rated at 310 miles of range, but when I fully charged it, I only got 308, which is less than 1%, but it's up close to 1% of battery capacity difference in my car versus the rated. So if you take that into account, I probably have only seen about a 2% actual battery degradation over time. But if you want to look at worst case scenario, worst numbers, we can call it 3% battery loss over the rated versus where I'm at right now, which is very, very good. For the Model S, Tesla says that you can expect a 5% battery loss over the first 50,000 miles of ownership. And then after that, the battery degradation really tapers down to almost a flat line. And so, I would expect to have a 4 or 5% battery loss, capacity loss by now at 40,000 miles, but I haven't seen that. Again, worst case numbers is 3%, but that's exaggerated. It's more like 2%, 2.5% at the worst of capacity loss, and I can totally live with that. That's not a problem at all. And I did notice that loss seemed to be pretty rapid within the first maybe 20,000 miles, and then it has really leveled off since then. So let's see here, some other numbers. Cost of ownership. So I financed this car my particular car was $56,000 with documentation and destination charges. It was a $55,000 car with options, but 56 sort of out the door. And I did finance it. So the true out the door price with taxes and title and plates and all of that was right at $60,000. It was just a couple hundred over, $60,200 or something like that. And I put essentially $10,000 down between my online reservation, the $2,500 order confirmation amount, and then plus my down payment to the bank for the loan. Ended up right at about $10,000 down. So I financed $50,000. My interest is 3.24%, I believe. And I did get a 6-year loan, although this car will be paid off before it's 3 years old. It'll be paid off at about 2.5 years old. And so I'll be paying very, very little in interest over the duration of my loan. My car payment is $772 a month. And this car saves me right around $400 a month in gas. And so it is, more than half paid for in gas savings alone. But then when you calculate savings of time as a business owner, not having to stop to gas up and not having to stop for oil changes, that offsets another portion of it. So this car, at least in my application, is almost free in what it saves me. And then YouTube videos pushes it way over the edge. My YouTube channel brings in more than half what a car payment would be for this anyway. So anyway, so the numbers on this car, it's been the cheapest car I've ever owned. And I'll do another video on owning a Tesla for business use, but basically this car is cheaper for me to own than a Toyota Camry would be for my business anyway. So that's that. And let's see here. What are some of the strong points? I would say one of the biggest strong points to owning this car is that I don't have to stop for gas. So, and that's not so much from a cost standpoint, although that's an issue. I got really tired of having to whip out my credit card and having to pay my credit card payment every month and all that to gas up cars. But the convenience aspect of it. People talk about range anxiety, and that can happen at times. But I got to tell you, there's a certain convenience to, I get up in the morning and my car is full. 80%, 90%, whatever I chose to charge it to that night. Every morning I get up, unplug the car, and it's ready to go for the day. I don't have any of this get in the car, start it, look, and go, I'm out of gas, gone. And that would happen to me frequently. Mainly because at the end of a 10-hour workday, I've worked hard, I'm stressed out. Do I really want to be stopping for gas and adding more difficulty to my day? Not really. So, I would just rather go home, and then I end up shooting myself in the foot and I have to stop for gas in the morning, which gassing up isn't really that hard, but when you're doing it constantly, I was gassing up every second day in my gas cars that I was driving. So that got to be a hassle. Every second day I got to find some place to pull into and gas up, and it's always at the worst possible time or whatever. So it is a convenience thing, knowing that I can fuel up at home, not stopping for oil changes. I change the oil many times in my gas cars, every 3,000 or 4,000 miles and 40,000 miles a year. So I'm looking at every month or so I'm stopping for an oil change, killing an hour of time. It's costing my business money and wasting my time to do it. So those are some of the things I love. Traveling state to state in this car, absolutely awesome. And it's not only the just the fact that it's, I travel for free because I have so many supercharging credits from the referral program. It's not just that, but it is, Autopilot, the smoothness of the car, the uncluttered layout of the dash makes it a very serene experience. But Autopilot is just the best. Autopilot is wonderful because when you're traveling state to state, you're on the expressway and you're staring out the windshield, and it's, you get that eye strain and that hypnotic stare that just it's mentally taxing, and honestly it can give you a headache even just. But Autopilot's wonderful. You click it into Autopilot, and you kind of let the car take over on its own, and you're looking out the windshield, but you're not fixated like this and giving yourself a headache. So Autopilot is awesome. I know people buy Teslas without Autopilot. A friend of mine is one of them, but I don't get it. Part of the reason you buy a Tesla is for Autopilot. So the efficiency, this thing is, it's fast as a sports car, and yet the most efficient vehicle you could buy. It's just everything about the car. It has proven to be extremely reliable. I've had one breakdown in the car, and it was an issue with the charge port door, the swinging charge port door. It worked fine, but I had an error on the screen. Apparently some moisture leaked in or something, and they redesigned the door. So Tesla came out, changed it in my driveway at no charge to me, but it didn't affect the car. I just had a little error thing on the screen for it. It's the only problem I've had with it. Everything else, I hear people complain about build quality. This is an early car, VIN number 9,300 and something. And I know there are earlier cars, but in the grand scheme, this is a very early car in 4-digit VIN territory. And if anyone should have build quality problems, it should be me. One of the earlier cars, and yet and I use it for work. So is it maybe harder use than personal use? I don't know, but it's been reliable. No odd sounds, no strange behaviors, couple screen glitches, but the screen resets for that. That's not a problem. So the car has been reliable. When I bought it, admittedly, I was a little bit nervous about battery longevity and that. Total non-issue at this point. And I'm 1/3 of the way through my battery warranty. It's a 120,000 mile warranty, and I'm 40,000 miles on the car right now. So yeah, so far so good. Would I do it again? Oh my goodness, yes, 1,000 times yes. This car has proven to be far more car than I was expecting. When I bought it, paid 55 grand for it. I thought, it's probably about a $40,000 car that I'm paying $15,000 extra either for the Tesla name or early adopter, tax, or however you want to word that. But I got to tell you, it's really not the case. This is every dollar's worth of a $55,000 car. The 300 plus mile range is amazing. Supercharging on the highway, it's kind of cool. It does take longer than gassing up, but they just sent out a new software update that I got 2 days ago, I think it was, that is supposed to speed up the supercharging process. So we'll see. I'm going up to Minnesota in a little while, and so that'll be a 1,000-mile round trip, and I'll be able to use the car with the new software update. So winter use has been wonderful. As with any EV, you do lose some range when the weather's cold, but this thing has so much range that it's not been an issue. I show up at home with less capacity left than I would in the summer, but I drive 160 miles a day, so it's really it's a non-issue. It's a moot point, really. So yeah, everything about the car is absolutely stellar and fantastic. I can't say enough good about the ownership experience. I will say that the only thing I regret is not getting the car sooner, but I couldn't get it sooner. I got one of the earlier cars, but if I could change anything about it, I would want it even sooner than I got it. So yeah, absolutely awesome. And the car still drives like brand new. At 40,000 miles, most cars, you can kind of sense a little bit of looseness in them or whatever. None of that here. Everything in the car feels as tight and pristine as when the car was brand new. So yeah, efficiency, I'm at a lifetime efficiency of 231 watt hours per mile, although some of that was the fact that we had a colder winter than usual, and I was using aftermarket wheels and tires. I'm back on the factory 18-inch wheels and tires right now. Long story as to why, but kind of doing some efficiency testing in that. So Anyway, a wonderful car, can't say enough good about it, and I am looking forward to piling the miles on. I'm not the highest mile Model 3 by any stretch, but I'm one of the highest for anyone with a YouTube channel. So for people reporting on a regular basis about their car, I'm probably the highest mile. So we'll see. Anyway, I'm excited, love the car, and everyone go ahead and leave me questions in the comments section. I would love to answer your questions, especially related to long-term ownership of the car. And if it's a good enough question, I'll shoot a video on it. Also, right now, Tesla has quintupled the referral credit for supercharging. Right now, it is 5,000 miles of free supercharging if you use the referral code to buy a new Tesla. So my referral code will be a link in the description below. And as always, everyone, have yourselves a wonderful day, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye now.